Hey, good morning, or good day, I should say. Who knows when you're watching this, but welcome to WEDCOnomics. I think this is like episode 9, and you can catch all the episodes. They're all up on our YouTube channel, and they also air on Wolfeboro Community TV and the channels that they have. So feel free to access anytime you'd like. This is, I think, as I said, episode 9. My name is Jack Terrill. I am the executive director of Wentworth Economic Development Corporation. We are here to serve 11 communities in the Eastern Lakes region. We advise, we finance, and we promote the small business sector in our region, which, as we all know over here on the Eastern Lakes, that is our economy. It's the small business sector. And so it's my pleasure today to introduce Dr. Renee Tetreault. Hi, Renee.
Hi, Jack. How are you?
Good. She is a doctor of chiropractics, and she's also a small business owner. So I thought we could have an enlightening conversation about her world and her experiences going from this to being a small business owner. So, again, thanks for tuning in. Renee, I wanted to chat a little bit. Your small business is called In Good Hands.
It is.
How'd you come up with that name?
I read a book, actually, and I want to say the title, don't quote me, is A is for Awesome. And it's probably like a 50 to 65 page book all about finding the name of a business. And so you went through this whole activity.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with you want something that people are going to remember, that's easy to pronounce, that's going to stick with them. So I had a whole list of kind of rather funny names for the business, and In Good Hands was one of them, and I liked it. I liked the way it sounded. I liked the way it flowed. I liked the kind of play on words of chiropractors will use my hands in good hands. Yeah.
A is for awesome?
I want to say that's the name of the book, but please don't quote me on that.
There is a tip well worth your time
That's
today.
Right.
Check it out, right? If you're thinking about being a small business.
It might be Hello, my name is awesome. Either
so
one of those
you have two options.
One
Hello,
of those two
my name
things.
is awesome, or A is for awesome.
One of those.
Okay.
Yeah.
well, that's good.
The internet is great for finding the information.
Renee, how did you get interested in chiropractic care?
Yeah, as a kid, we went to the chiropractor growing up. I think I started probably 3rd grade. We just went as a family. I was a biology major in undergrad. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with that. I was in college. I came home. I got adjusted. My chiropractor said, "Are you going to go to chiropractic school or what?" And I said, "Sure." And really, that's kind of how it started. So it was just something through childhood that we went to as a family, and it just natural kind of made sense, the natural progression of things.
You never know when your angels are going to show up in your life, and clearly,
yeah, sometimes
the chiropractor was an angel of yours.
They just directly ask you if you're going to go or what. So
whereabouts was this?
Dover, New Hampshire. So I grew
Dover?
up in southern Maine, but we went to the chiropractor in Dover.
So that started you down the path.
Started me down the path.
Fantastic. So it's one thing to go down the path and become a chiropractor, a doctor of chiropractor.
Yeah.
Chiropractic?
Chiropractor.
Doc?
Chiropractor.
Renee?
Yeah.
So you can do that, but at some point you made the decision to become your own small business as opposed to working in a larger
As opposed
firm.
to being an associate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. How did I come about that?
Yeah.
I
asked the question.
Sorry, don't want to do my own interview. It had to be at some point in school where you're going to other chiropractic offices, you're meeting with other doctors, and you sort of envision how you want to take care of your patients, how you want that feel and that flow to be of your office. And you only really get to create that vision if you're your own boss, if you're your own business owner. There's a lot of value when it comes to being an associate doctor because you gain skill and knowledge and you increase your comfort level with dealing with patients that walk in the door. But you don't get to create that atmosphere. So that was a big drive for me wanting to be my own business owners. I wanted that vision of that feel of what my patients felt when they walked in the door and that flow.
So did you start as an associate?
I started as a coverage doctor, actually. Associate-esque, I was covering another practice for a doctor, but I was simultaneously working with WEDCO, actually, to open the doors of my own practice with it.
WEDCO is us.
Yes. So it wasn't like I started as an associate and then was like, I don't like this. It was always the vision. I just sort of took a little bit of a pause on the journey to actually opening the doors.
That must have been a very exciting but also unnerving time of your life.
I think I just honestly, ignorance is bliss in that aspect of like, I was like, I'm going to do this. And I just did it without thinking too much about it. And I think that was the helpful thing. I look back now and I'm like, what I know about operating a business now, I'm like, wow, how did I not wake up in a sweat, in a panic all the time of being able to get it done?
But you didn't wake up in a sweat.
I didn't.
Because...
I got adjusted.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
You adjusted your attitude
That's
into
right.
not being paralyzed by over-analysis.
Right.
Paralysis by analysis. And not living in your fears. And letting go and finding the angels along the way that would help make it happen. Which I'm proud to say Wentworth Economic Development Corporation
100%.
was
Yep.
helpful in your getting started.
Absolutely.
What did you find were some of the challenges that you had to overcome to become a small business owner?
Work-life balance, because especially when you're starting your business, there's so much that goes into, like, you're building a website. When it comes to chiropractic, you're getting in network with insurances if you want to do that. Like, that's a whole beast. Your phone system. So the whole operating aspect of getting everything in line to start a small business is tough. And so, again, balancing that between if you're not there, you're not getting the work done, and every delay pushes back that open date. So it was really about not burning myself out before even opening the doors to the practice.
Well, it sounds like a very well-balanced approach.
Yeah.
You had an angel chiropractor who kind of started you down the path. You had an organization like WEDCO to help advise and finance you along the way. Who else was out there that played a role in getting you to where you are today?
I actually hadn't heard about WEDCO yet. And I met with a SCORE mentor. So those are like retired executives that you go online. And I'm pretty sure it's nationwide, and you sort of in your area find a mentor. You talk about what your needs are. And I wish I remembered his name. I met with a mentor, and he said, have you contacted WEDCO? And I was like, what? And he goes, WEDCO, they're designed to help, especially people like you starting up a small business. Because there's definitely clubs, school organizations. You talk with other doctors in your profession about how they did it. Right? There's no point in reinventing the wheel. Do you want to stand on the shoulders of the people before you? And so throughout school, I worked on creating my business plan so that I knew that when I got out of school, I had something that I could present to whomever. And so when he had suggested WEDCO and I looked into it and I contacted Denise at the time, that really just started the process rolling. So to answer your question, simply doctors that I worked with in school, and then also a lot of other clubs and organizations just outside of school that are there to really help other chiropractors that have done it beforehand. We had business classes in school, but they didn't answer all of the questions that a lot of us needed because there just wasn't the time.
And until you do it,
you don't know.
You don't know.
You have no idea.
You don't know.
You don't know.
But I think one of the points that came out in what you were saying is that there's a lot of conversations with a lot of different people about a lot of different aspects, and that no individual should go it alone.
Correct.
In this pursuit of their dream of opening up their own small business.
Yeah. I think you have to ask a ton of questions, go talk to the people who are in the field that you want to be in and the small business that you want to open, and sort of say, hey, how would you do it differently if you had to do it again?
We want you to be an expert in the adjustment of our bones.
Yeah.
That's what we want you to be.
That's understandable.
Your business, your small business, requires you to be or have expertise or some level of knowledge in accounting, marketing, human resources, hiring, right? I mean, all those pieces you have one time or another, or probably still do, you put on the marketing hat, you put on the accounting hat, you put on, right? That's not easy, but I'm sure in each of those endeavors, you sought assistance.
Yes. Yeah. You have to, especially if you want to focus on, and my patients want me to focus on their health, their spine. They don't want me to focus on the billing part of it, the insurance part of it, the marketing part of it, all that other stuff. So,
but it's critical for a small business.
I think you have to be able to know and how to operate every aspect of your small business. Because there's been instances, and it really, for me, I have two wonderful employees now, two wonderful ladies, Kaylee and Claudia, who get to wear all those hats for me so that I can just wear the chiropractic hat. But there were times where it was just Claudia and I, and she broke her leg, needed surgery. So it was just me.
How dare her?
I know. It was just me for a month and a half, and I had to keep up with everything so that the times where I could get her stuff to work on, or she could come in, I couldn't have a whole pile of stuff on the desk and be like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do this. What do I do? Help me. So I did. There are instances where I had to wear a lot of those different hats.
But as is me, the consumer, I just want Dr. Renee, the chiropractor.
100%. You don't want the Dr. Renee, the accountant.
I did not come there for marketing advice.
No, nor should you really. So it's not my strong suit, thankfully. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we've touched on some of this, but I mean, your learning, which has been, I'm sure, exponential in this whole process as you go about it. What sort of advice would you throw out to somebody who's thinking of opening their own small business?
So again, ask a lot of questions. Immerse yourself in the type of business that you want to do. Don't reinvent the wheel. Find out the struggles of other business owners, and you hope that they're there to help you. You hope that they'll answer your questions with it. But yeah, you don't need to go at it alone. There are organizations out there. There are people you can contact. There are people that can be helpful. So take advantage of that, truly.
Yeah, I think that's solid advice.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about chiropractic care. All right.
All right. My bread and butter. You hope, right?
Well, it seems to me that you've got a pretty strong clientele.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is good. Which rely on being able to go online and schedule their appointments. And,
yep.
So that can't be overlooked. That's an important piece. Is the convenience to the consumer, and somehow you went from having none of that to that's how I schedule my appointments, and it's really cool. It's really convenient.
Walk-ins in my afternoon, which is helpful too for patients. So,
what do you mean you walk in?
So from the mornings are appointment based.
Yeah.
You can go on, make an appointment, or you can call the office.
Yeah.
And then my afternoons when I'm open from 3 to 6, no appointment necessary. You walk in if you're an existing patient. So it allows even more flexibility with people who aren't sure about their schedule. So picking up kids from school, getting out of work late, needing to stop at the grocery store on their way in. If I'm there, you pop in.
So that's a decision you made as to creating your business, creating the atmosphere. This is all right.
Yeah.
Let's do it like that.
Yeah.
Which not every chiropractor does that.
No.
And you're finding benefits?
I'm finding that it's this nice balance between the people who like an appointment, need an appointment. Sometimes that's the only way they're getting in. And then the other people whose lives, there is a little more variability. And so they enjoy the fact that they drive by, they see the flag out, and they're like, oh, yeah. And they pull in the parking lot, they come in, they get adjusted.
All right, we got off the subject of chiropractic care a little bit, but that was interesting. But I want to ask you, we all have heard of chiropractic care. Some of us engage in chiropractic care. Some of us don't for various reasons. But how important is chiropractic care to your overall health?
It's a good question. How much time do we have? I'm just kidding.
Keep going. You keep going, man.
So it's important to understand that there's multi-layers to good health. And what is good health to me is different to what you would say is good health to you. But in terms of chiropractic care, thankfully the last 20 years there's been a lot of research done by chiropractors, by chiropractor neurologists, and they've done all these studies, and it's been really helpful to sort of tell a patient, hey, here's actually what is occurring when we adjust the spine. And we know that the spine can impact the way that your brain actually perceives and interprets what's called sensory information. So the information of the outside world and also what's going on internally in your body. We also know through research that the chiropractic adjustment can actually create changes in what is called your prefrontal cortex, right? So it's just right behind your forehead.
Yeah.
And that prefrontal cortex, think of it as the conductor of your body. Like
Okay.
it's multi-layered.
The Leonard Bernstein of your body.
Sure, whatever,
Okay.
however you want to look at it.
All right.
When it comes to specifically health and when we're talking about chiropractic, the prefrontal cortex is partially responsible for how the body perceives pain. So you come in, our patient comes in, headache, neck pain, back pain. Previously in chiropractic, we thought like, oh, we're taking pressure off of a nerve and that's being helpful. Well, no, what we now know through research is we're actually eliciting change to how your brain and how your body interprets and perceives pain. So really what I'm doing when I'm adjusting the spine is I'm making changes to that prefrontal cortex, and your brain is interacting with your body differently. And your brain can actually say, I'm going to turn down those pain signals or I'm going to shut them off completely. Right? So it's how somebody can come in and get adjusted and they can be like, whoa, I got adjusted once and I'm not in pain. Right? Your brain is actually saying, oh, okay, I'm going to turn down those pain receptors. I'm going to turn that pain off completely sometimes. And I don't like to focus on pain in the office because, again, health is so broad. There's so many different things that the chiropractic adjustment can do. Again, when we relate it back to that prefrontal cortex, that also has to do with something called your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest and how we're healing. It has to do with immune function, inflammatory levels. So it's not just pain that can be altered and changed by the chiropractic adjustment.
So it's all that stuff?
It's all that stuff and more. Your prefrontal cortex is actually responsible a lot of times for like emotional health, so mental health. And so I'm not saying, just want to clarify, I'm not saying the chiropractic adjustment fixes these things. It doesn't. The only thing the chiropractic adjustment does is it changes the way that the brain and body communicate. And there's so many different things that can occur with that. That's why I can't look at somebody and say, hey, I'm going to adjust you and this is what's going to happen. Well, I don't know. Your brain is going to have that hierarchy of needs. It's going to decide what it's going to do with that new information.
Wow.
Right?
That's
mind-blowing.
kind of.
Right?
Yeah. I know it's had an impact on me in my life. And I moved up here and in December, and I had a relationship for 9 years with a chiropractor down in Florida. And one of my big fears was, all right, I know that chiropractic help has been good for me, and I'm going to need to continue that. who do I do it with? And so there was a fear, just like changing dentists or changing,
Right.
it's like, oh gosh, will this person be able to do what my doc was able to do in Florida, which she was wonderful. And so we had a relationship with your organization, and I said, well, that seems like a logical place to start.
Yeah.
Denise spoke highly of you. So I said, all right, we'll give
Give it a shot.
Renee a shot. And so the first thing that I noticed is how prior to any adjustment, what you did or what you looked at was different than the chiropractor
Yeah.
I had in Florida. And
Yep.
I go, well, this is weird, because you do some weird things, right? You like touch something, and
Yeah.
I don't know what you've learned from doing that, unless you just get a kick out of it.
That's all I like to do, just really rile up my
But
patients.
obviously, you're receiving some sort of feedback.
Yeah.
Is that a secret, or can you?
No, it's not. Yes, it's a secret. I
Right?
can't
No,
tell you.
I mean, you have me sit,
Yep.
and then you poke a little bit here or there.
What it's just a different technique, and all I'm determining with that technique and that approach is where to adjust, because I think it's just as important to know when and where not to adjust as it is when and where to adjust with it. So that's just my own personal technique analysis. Every chiropractor is really different. You go through chiropractic school and there's so many different techniques and approaches. And you sort of find the one that resonates with you.
But as a standard, regardless of what approach, the chiropractor does that sort of preliminary, okay, before I do anything, I need to receive feedback on what to do.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's a standard. Every chiropractor is going to do that. It's just that
Do it a different
their
way.
methodology might be different.
Correct.
Do you know me better now, after I've been coming to see you for 8 months? When I walk in the door, do you not see skin? You just see my skeleton walking in? I know that skeleton. I know what his issues are.
I sometimes, obviously, I have notes. So when you come in, I kind of pop up and say, okay, where did we adjust you last? Like, what was going on? And it's more so that you build this rapport with the patient and you get to know, like, how they adjust, I guess the ease in which they adjust. And if something's off, you're like, hey, what's going on? Like, there's a little more tension in there. Did something, like, are you stressed? Did you fall? Like, what did you do? Like, things aren't moving the way that they typically do with it. I don't know, does that answer your question?
I think you avoided the question, but we have.
I don't see you as like a sack of skin and bones.
Yeah. So.
I'm still always going to do a brief analysis.
Yeah.
With it, no matter what. Like, no matter how long you've been coming in as a patient, I'm always just going to do a quick checks and balance system with you.
You had an enlightening thing for me, which is, we're going to do this care, we're going to do this adjustment. You might want to chip in a little bit and say, drink some water.
Yes.
And because I was complaining to you that, I still feel, well, guess what? I started drinking water.
What happened?
I feel so much better.
Remember, right? I talked about, like, good health is so many layers. It's what we eat. And I don't know if I've pointed it out to you in one of my adjusting rooms, is I have a thing on the wall. It's the dream list. So diet, rest, exercise, adjustment, or mindfulness and stress management. All of those are part of your whole overall health. I only do one thing. I do the adjustment. Everything else is very much in the patient's control. Like, you can decide what you eat. You can decide if you get good rest. You can decide if you exercise. You can decide how you handle stress with it. So all of those things, especially if a patient comes in and they're compliant with care, you're following care plan instructions, and you're just still, nothing's changing. I'm always like, well, hey, what are you eating? Are you drinking enough water? What is your stress level at? Because I know that those things also impact your overall health.
So they say that beneath the skin we all look the same, right? We're all bones.
Relatively, yeah, sure.
But there's a difference between a 250-pound burly man and a 90-pound woman who's maybe 75 years old. There's a difference between those two structures.
Yeah.
So you just should someone fear that, or understand that that's taken into consideration when you go about your work?
Yeah, I always welcome questions, especially as a new patient in the office, and one of them is a fear of, is it going to hurt? And so I like to pride myself on my technique, and my approach can be on the gentler side. Like, I have plenty
It depends, actually, what kind of day you're having, I've noticed.
Right.
I've
Am I a little angry?
There's been a couple
sorry.
days where it's like, okay, Renee, whatever.
Maybe I had to answer too many emails, too much marketing, too many hats. But yeah, so I think it just, like, I have plenty of patients that that can't lay down on the table. I adjust like children, like babies, right? And that's a much different approach to the body.
Do you really?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
How do they know the baby needs to be adjusted?
I argue that everybody should be adjusted. Because again, remember we talked about how it changes the way that your brain and your body interact. Well, why wouldn't you want your brain and your body to interact better? So things that parents bring their children in for, as far as the chiropractic adjustment, like colicky, constipation, torticollis, so the head is kind of cocked to one side a little bit. So those are all things that initially bring parents to bring their children in. But fundamentally, again, where the spine impacts how the brain perceives and interprets sensory information. I want to make sure, at least I do in my body and my child's body, I want to make sure that sensory information that's coming in through the spine is interpreted correctly in my brain.
You got a baby or two?
I have a year and a half old. Yeah.
Chiropractic patient?
Of course she is. She's a little, I won't lie to you, she's a little hard for me to adjust. And so a lot of times
Just because of the attachment you have?
Yeah, it's like a different thing. I also, truthfully, like my husband will come in and get adjusted, but I prefer if we all go together to my chiropractor that I go to see, and she adjusts them. It's just a different, it's a different experience. It's a different process. Like my child will kind of be more, I guess, sort of inquisitive about what's going on if somebody else is adjusting her versus like she thinks maybe I'm playing. So it's a little harder. Yeah. Kids.
Well, that's, there you have it. I mean, she's committed her whole family to that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta be.
Yeah. Is it better for me to come in when I'm hurting or
No.
come in regularly?
Come in regularly. I didn't even let you finish that. No, come in regularly. I talk a lot to my patients too, like maintenance. Like, would you stop getting an oil change on your car? Would you wait until your check engine light came on? Some people do. I would argue not. I also talk about how what we know through research, when a joint or like a spinal segment is immobilized, after 4 weeks, degeneration sets in. All right. Sure, we're all going to have degeneration over time. After 12 weeks of immobilization of that joint, scar tissue forms, right? So if somebody comes in periodically in pain and I'm adjusting you, fine, but that scar tissue is just going to want to pull it back out. So having that regular care allows prevention of that buildup, more or less, and makes it worth your while. Right? If you come in, you get adjusted every so often. When you're just in pain, temporarily, you might have that relief, right? Again, because those pain signals can be turned down in the brain or turned off completely. But at the end of the day, you're kind of taking one step forward and maybe one step back.
So somebody who's on the fence, not really sure if this is for them or not, what would your advice to them be?
I would always ask, why don't you think it's for you?
Because you're going to break my neck.
Okay, yeah, but it's different.
Which hasn't happened yet.
It hasn't happened with you. You're still here, right?
Wasn't for lack of effort.
So I talk about, again, different approaches, different techniques. We could be gentle. We can always add kind of ramping up a little bit of how we change the adjustment. But again, back to what we know about the research and what the chiropractic adjustment does and how it can have this positive impact on the brain. Why wouldn't you want that? you know, and I use the analogy a lot of working out. Like, sure, it's sometimes difficult to get yourself to that gym, to do all that, to commit. It's a time, it's a money commitment. But at the end of the day, are you ever going to be mad if you're physically fit?
No.
Right.
No. In fact, because of you, and I either praise you or curse you, I'm not sure which.
A little bit of both, and that's fine.
But I'm able to go out and golf, which isn't always pleasurable. But
Yeah.
but it's nice to be able to move enough to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And that's one of my favorite things about my job, is that patients get to come in and say, hey, I'm golfing more, or I'm playing with my grandkids, or I'm hiking. Like, you're giving a little bit of their life back, which is, I think, probably my favorite part about my job.
Which is great,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that will keep you doing
That'll
what
keep
you
me
do,
doing. Yeah.
which is what we want you to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, we're out of time. Unbelievable, huh? And this is what, it goes by fast when you ask the deep, probing questions, which we do here on this program called WEDCOnomics. In Good Hands, Dr. Renee Tetreault, Center Street? Not exactly.
Elm Street.
Elm
I should know that, right?
Elm Street.
I'm there 3 days a
right
week.
here
I
in
should know.
Wolfeboro. I am a patient, and if you're on the fence or looking for a chiropractor, I can highly recommend Dr. Renee. And she's also a good sport. She came on.
I did. Here I am.
And, with her, time is money, so this is good. So thank you, Renee.
Thank you for having me.
I enjoyed the conversation very much. I learned a lot.
See?
And I think you are a champion of chiropractic care.
Thank you.
As you should be.
As you should be. As you would hope, right?
All right, folks. I'm Jack Terrill, Executive Director, Wentworth Economic Development Corp. We help small businesses through advice, finance, and promotion here in the Eastern Lakes region. If you are thinking about small businesses and getting started with your idea, please don't hesitate to reach out. In the interim, till next time, folks, thank you.